Is it the game of all time or just one of the thousands of first-player shooters?
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Half-Life 2 back in 2004 became a real breakthrough in the gaming industry and seriously raised the bar for future projects. I tried this game for the first time in 2008. I remember that I was impressed by the first missions, where you had to escape from City 17, shooting back from combines. I didn't go further than this level, because the game wasn't on my computer, and at that time I still didn't really understand how to solve mini puzzles in the game. It made Half-Life 2 very different from other linear shooters I have played before. To the question, is it worth playing Half-Life 2 many years after its release, without delaying the intrigue, I can say it's worth it. And to everyone who appreciates interesting stories, post-apocalypse and dystopian stories, Half-Life 2 is a beautifully packaged Orwellian story that explores the problems of revolutionary movements, governance and subjugation.
Dr. Breen again? I was hoping I'd seen the last of him in City 14. I wouldn't say that too loud. This is his base of operations.
It gave rise to many myths, mysteries and theories, and became a true cult in this genre. Fans worldwide still continue to discuss various speculations about the plot in the third part. How positive the protagonist Gordon Freeman is in this story, who G-Man is, and many others. I have always held to the idea that if a game is really worthwhile, even many years after its release, fans will keep the fire alive in it. They will create various modifications and fanfiction, build on destroyed theories and myths, and make a huge amount of content. A strong fan core prolongs the game's life, even when the creators have already forgotten about it. As for the game itself, for 2004 it was a real graphic and physical masterpiece. Texture quality, balance, gameplay and the story made a powerful cocktail that propelled Valve's shooter to the top of that year's ratings. What can I say, if not all modern games can boast such elaboration and attention to detail? This is especially true of how balanced the graphics of Half-Life 2 are. The only negative that catches your eye is two desert landscapes, most often in open areas. Perhaps it is due to the same optimization. But to be honest, in these open locations I mostly ran or drove at full speed, dodging enemies, and I certainly didn't have the time or inclination to look at how detailed the terrain was at the edges of the map. Therefore, this minus is completely leveled by the gameplay. Most importantly, Half-Life was the perfect game for most computers of those years. Unlike Crysis 3, which even today's computers can't always play correctly, therefore a separate respect for such a reference balance. The game takes place somewhere in Eastern Europe, but it is impossible to say exactly where the actions are taking place. So City 17 and its environs are a purely collective image of a dystopian city of the future.
I got a standard relocation coupon just like everybody else.
The key characters of the game are very charismatic and memorable. I still remember quotes from Alex Vance.
Here, let me buy you a drink. Oh, and by the way, nice to finally meet you.
Father Grigori,
But who is this? Another life to save? I'll keep my eye on you. More than that, I cannot promise.
G-Man, and of course Barney.
About that beer I owed you.
By the way, there are not cutscenes in the game, except for the introductory video and the final one. In all other moments with dialogues, we can control the protagonist as we please. We can squat in the corner of the lab when Dr. Kleiner eulogizes us. We can jump around the torture chamber while Barney shows us on the video call to Doc, and so on. I think it's good for immersion, because we exist in the world of the game without interrupting to gameplay, without mini-movies that take away all control from us. I didn't notice it before, but now I appreciate this approach more and more. Half-Life 2 exists perfectly without being tied to the first part, and introduces the player to the course of events smoothly and according to all the rules of the plot narrative. This is also influenced by the fact that Gordon Freeman spent 20 years in stasis after the incident in Black Mesa. So it is quite logical that the characters in the story are constantly trying to tell him and explain what is happening in the brave new world.
They have no reason to come to our place. Don't worry, they'll find one.
This happens naturally and is not faked. All explanations to the place. The atmosphere of the game is created just great, although the beta version of CV-17 was an even more depressing and gloomy city. From the first seconds, the player is affected by an oppressive sense of danger. Although at first nothing happens to him, he just arrives by train in an unfamiliar city. But the voice of Wallace Breen and his reasoning about the invincible power of the aliens, the constant clicks of cameras, the communication of combines on the radio, people who have lost all hope, in whose eyes there is absolute depression and fear, adds up to a general terrifying picture of a world that has lost.
Oh shit! Too late!
After a few minutes of gameplay, we learn that our protagonist is the very particle of resistance that must grind off the massive boulder of the aliens, defeat the invaders and eliminate collaborators. The plot well reveals all the cruelty with which any dissent is suppressed by prohibiting laws and restrictions. The hard work of the rebels, often associated with self-sacrifice for the sake of a great goal, is perfectly demonstrated for the sake of the future, for freedom. In 2023, this is more relevant than ever. Those who fight for freedom and forced to operate in secret in small mobile groups, they are often ambushed by the aliens, and the numerical superiority of the invaders are more serious weapons. Leave no chance for the revolutionaries. Even Gordon often has to flee.
Ah, it is you, brother. I apologize.
This story has everything that even a sophisticated player needs, and achievements, Easter eggs, and a lot of references. This game will give you unforgettable hours spent in the company of Resistance Force, and it will remind you that sometimes we have to fight for our ordinary and normal world.